Okay, so first of all, Caitlin, tell us a little bit about your business. Tell us about Moxie & Co. And then tell us about your clientele, the business that you've built. Give us like, the 2-minute version.
Yeah, so Moxie is located in Northern California in a town called Windsor, which is about an hour and 15 minutes north of San Francisco. So we are Northern California. And we have a clientele that comes from all over. So we have a clientele that is immediately in our area within 15 minutes of the salon, 20 minutes of the salon. But we also do have a clientele that comes from the Bay Area, so an hour south. And then we have a whole clientele that comes about 3 hours from north because it's such a small area up there, very rural and not a whole lot going on. So we are one of the closest towns to them that offer a real luxury service and, experience in a salon. Just in the rural town, they just don't really get that. They don't have a lot of really, continued education up there. So it is very old school. And there's a huge community that's looking for something a little more modern. So we get a lot of that clientele as well.
And I think that it's really interesting. So Caitlin and I are like not too far away from each other. I'm really in the heart of the Bay Area and one of the key counties, really deep in it. And I could easily go to San Francisco. I could easily go to Silicon Valley. There's a community around me called San Mateo where there's some options. However, I agree with you in that there's nothing like Moxie around me. And the world kind of is my oyster in that I have lots of choices, but what you've created is really unique. So what was your vision for Moxie, and what are some of the things that you think do set you apart? Like what makes you a luxury brand? What makes you the clear choice to those who are traveling to come in to see you?
I think our education, I think that the fact that we really pride ourselves in learning new techniques and continuing that education is huge, especially for these younger girls who want a very modern look. They don't want the Kelly Clarkson highlights stuck in 2000. They do want something more lived in. They want something stylish. They want something like you see on Instagram, like you see the girls, in all the TikToks and everything, from LA and from, the Bay Area and things like that. So for us, we really wanted to cater to that clientele. So creating a space that was warm, welcoming, inviting, but very clean, very modern, very minimalist, very sophisticated, within our space, I think was a big deal. And I think people see that. And I think a certain clientele sees that through our marketing. And that's where they want to be. That's the place that they want to go. And we knew that was our clientele. That's been our clientele. I've been kind of moving in that direction for a really long time now. And so when I had the opportunity to create my own space, that's exactly what I had envisioned and had in mind for it.
And I think it's really, I want to like from an outsider's insider's perspective, talk about like what I've seen in Caitlin, in that from the time I've known Caitlin, which is about 6 years now, I have watched you take advantage of every luxury education opportunity you could get your hands on. Like truly, she's done it all. And she fought with focus to ensure she was building the brand that she has and the clientele that she has. And she's always had a very strong demand. I always felt like Caitlin was somebody who could just like the Midas touch, like you could touch it and it turns to gold. Like you've always had this affinity for building great business. And I think that's important for everyone to understand that like you've fought really hard and you've built this with purpose and with passion and with drive and with focus. Right. And now you've built this really intentional brand. Can you tell us like who the average client is for you and for Moxie?
Yeah, so for our average, I would say it's about anywhere between 25 to 35, I think is our average clientele. And it really is the girls who like to spend money on their hair. They really do spend a lot of time and a lot of effort They love the lived-in looks. A lot of that very beachy, effortless, look, along with extensions. So extensions are a huge part of our clientele. Every stylist in the salon is certified and offers extensions. And so we all have a pretty high demand of that type of luxury service. And a lot of those clients are coming from all over. So
Okay, so let's get into it. So the reason why Caitlin and I connected today is she reached out to me a couple weeks back and said, I'm feeling a change. There's change in the air. The market's changing. The clientele is changing. Things are bubbling up. Tell us what the indicators were to you that things were changing. What were some of the signs you saw?
So for us with the extensions, we have, like I said, a huge clientele from about 3 hours north of us in a little town. And a lot of, I would say probably the majority of those clients are extension clients. And that town specifically is really struggling right now with the economy. And what I'm finding is that that particular group of people are really starting to make a shift in what they are receiving. So they are starting to think twice about having extensions, taking them out for the summer or taking them out indefinitely, and just kind of seeing what's happening with their own businesses and economy up there. It's expensive for them to come here. Not only, I'm not talking about hair, I'm talking, it is a 3-hour drive. They are spending, tons of money on gas to get here, to get home. They all drive big trucks because they live in such a rural area also. And they spend, a day or two here in the area because it's such a long drive. So they're spending not only on their hair, but they're spending on gas, they're spending on food, being away from home, they're spending on a hotel because it's too dangerous to drive that far sometimes, late at night and that sort of thing. So their ticket out the door for hair for an appointment is way larger than what you and I would even be spending. And so for them, that's a big deal. And I take that, I'm so grateful for them to spend that much time and money to be here. And so I'm doing everything possible to make their service what they would like it to be, especially given the climate of what's going on in their own town, and that they want to continue to look their best and look as they always did, but for a slightly smaller price tag.
And I think you hit the head on so many key points, is that was that expense, that time, that commitment, that dedication was justifiable for them for years. And, this was just something that they did, and they did stay in the hotel and they made the drive, and it was all well worth it. And now they're in this place of reconsidering what is essential. And I think that's what's important for everybody to understand, because it's not that people don't still want to look and feel their best, to exactly what you said, but what is essential in looking and feeling their best is the part that's being renegotiated.
Yeah.
So what are how is this affecting you? Is this affecting you financially at this moment? Question A. Question B, what are you flexing and what are you doing to support these clients in making the transition?
So I initially kind of caught wind of what was going on just by over probably the last, honestly, probably the last 2 years. So there was a lot of talk about how their industry up there was really struggling, and that their economy was really struggling. And then, the pandemic hit. And with that, things really kind of escalated quickly for them. And what's happened now is they kept up with it, and they have kept up with everything, but it is starting to very slowly trickle down here to what they can afford and what they can't. So at this point, it hasn't affected me financially necessarily. But what's happening is I've had multiple of my clients want to take their extensions out. And so with that, of course, there's this, they hate the idea of taking them out. They don't want to take them out. I don't want them to take them out, of course. But what that means is, I have to kind of figure out what to do with their hair so that they feel good about themselves. And that is something that is a difficult task, because when you get so used to wearing extensions, you don't feel like your hair is worthy. And it's a really hard pill to swallow for some of them. But we have, we've looked at, clip-ins and halos and things like that. And I do have one client who went that route, and she was so grateful. I helped her pick out the colors and everything. So she was very grateful, and she wears those just when she wants a little space. She's not wearing it all the time. But at the same time, over the years, I've really helped transform these women's hair, because they were wearing extensions because they had such poor hair. Now they've taken their extensions out and their hair is not that bad. So we actually, over the last few years of them wearing it, they've seen tremendous growth in their hair. So they take them out and they're like, oh, I guess it's not that bad, but they miss the fullness, So for me, that was like a real, winner, because not only are they feeling confident because of what we've done over the last few years, but they're feeling confident that they can go out and still, they still feel good about themselves without their extensions. Would it be nice to have them? Absolutely. But for right now, that's just not in the cards for them. So it's been an eye-opener. And then the other part of that is, now that they don't have extensions, where they had to be here every 6 to 8 weeks to get that service done, because you just can't let extensions go longer, it becomes dangerous. And so now they're starting to flex their appointments a little longer, because now they don't really have to be here. They're that lived in, very seamless look that doesn't need a lot of maintenance. So then it was, okay, how do I keep them coming back to me every 8 weeks? Sure, they're not getting extensions, but we need to do something. I got to keep them in my chair. And so for that, doing a toning service in between your major services, doing a little trim, doing, the just freshening up their look, for the next 3 months. So that way they did have a little bit of, they had a little something to get them through until that next appointment. The other thing too is, up there, it's very rural. They're on well water and that sort of thing. So they kind of do need that service. They need the clean water here. They need us to really slough off all the junk, give them a fresh toner, so that when they do come back to me in 3 months, I'm not starting over on this major project because of their water too. So that was a big deal for me, to kind of educate them on why it's important that they still come every 8 weeks or so.
Okay, I love this. I love that you're almost just expanding on your journey with them. Like before it was centered around extensions, high maintenance. And now it's like, okay, the needs have changed. However, you've shown them that healthy hair can be possible. And so it's sustaining that hair health has kind of become more of a part of the conversation, versus we can mask it, we'll just put the extensions. Now it's like you're doubling down on the health of the hair. And it's just that the conversation has changed. And I love that you have been so hyper focused on sustaining the relationship rather than trying to keep the service menu looking the same. You're just saying, like, how does this relationship evolve? What does this look like? And how do we just carry the conversation forward, talking more about hair health versus volume, density, which is obviously what they were looking for before. Now, do you feel like you mentioned focusing on things more like, that great cleanse, maybe a conditioning treatment, trims. Were you doing haircut only clients previously?
No, and I still don't. So it still is required that you have a color service at minimum. But the color service doesn't have to be major. It could just be a fresh toner. So I don't offer that. I don't plan to offer that. I will keep it as my kind of sessions moving forward. I won't change that necessarily. My time is just too greatly pinched to offer just haircuts. So I really just expand that appointment time. If it doesn't take me that long, I just spend more time with them to make it take that long. And the fact that they're driving 3 hours and then to only spend 45 minutes in the salon and then see ya, I think that you have to consider that and really take the time to just hang out with them, talk to them, pamper them, because they're spending so much of their time to get to you and to be with you.
Okay, Caitlin, I love that because I think for a lot, like I'm getting a ton of DMs right now. I'm going to toss a question to you and see what you would do. So there's somebody based in LA who is very, very specialized in a type of, I'm going to call it a color correction, but like a very specific, very intensive color service. We're talking like 4 to 6 hours is probably going to be the average. It's a biggie.
Yeah.
And so this person is like, and is already feeling kind of a shift in the market of like, people are getting a little more conservative with their cash. And he's saying like, should I go back to doing haircuts? Should I change my whole target market? And my feeling is, no, we don't change the target market. We listen to what's happening and we adapt, which is what you've done so beautifully. So I think it's brilliant that you haven't reverted back to, changing the way you do business. You're saying the demand is still there. It's just the conversation has changed. So what would you do in that kind of situation where maybe you were serving a very intense color clientele where everything was such a tremendous process? Like, do you have any advice for that person who's in this tough spot of how do I continue navigating this clientele and allowing them to feel served without having everything be so hands in?
Well, I would continue to serve that clientele because that clientele is always going to be there. Everyone's going to need a color correction at some point in their life, right? But what I would probably do is, and I don't know if this is something they're doing already, but how do you now maintain that guest? So maybe you're not getting quite as many of those color corrections, but how about the ones that you have, you maintain them? So creating now color packages or service packages for that client to then come back to you in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it may be, in order to keep that butt in your chair. I have always felt, the new clients take so much time, energy, and effort, and just mental capability that keeping somebody in your chair that you have already been servicing is far easier than bringing in somebody new. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, just new clients just take it out of you. And so what if you only saw one new client a week, but you maintained those other clients that you've been doing, over the course of a time? That way it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for you because you don't have to mentally prepare for this new client. And not to say that we totally, go lazy with our regular clients, but we know them, we have a rapport with them. It's not forced conversation, and it just is easier. It is just easier all around, their hair. And so I would say creating some sort of service to maintain that clientele versus try to constantly be getting a new clientele of color corrections.
Okay, Caitlin, I love this. I feel like this was such a great reminder for all of us to remember that we're in the relationship business at the end of the day. And I think you're right that we get so hyper focused on like the Instagram way of life where everything is like flashy and new and attracting and being so cutting edge. But at the end of the day, it is about serving while serving deeply and sustaining that long ongoing relationship with that base clientele and showing them that we're not just here for the fun, exciting when everything's good, like we're in it with you for the long haul. And kind of like in relationships, like the strongest relationships are built in times of turmoil. Like everybody can be good when times are good. And it's those you show up for when things aren't feeling so great. That's what good business is built upon. So Caitlin, I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights today. I think that you gave a lot of hope as we kind of head into these uncertain financial times, and for people to feel like, okay, change isn't such a bad thing. Get back to basics, get back to fundamentals. Don't panic about the external changes. Just remember that good common business sense to see us through. Caitlin, you're amazing.
And I think it's really important that you have these conversations with your clients, because I would have never known that this was happening in their town, that they were struggling so much, had I not have these conversations. So talk to your clients and ask, like, how's business? How's everything going? How's your work? You know, have you guys been chatting about the possibility of a recession? You know, what's your company looking to do to stay safe? You know, having these conversations with your client, I think, is important. One, it shows them that you care about them personally and their well-being, but also it gives you an inside scoop so that you can start preparing, like, okay, so it sounds like Susie, Sally, and Jenny are probably going to be laid off. So I need to come up with a plan for them when that happens, you know? So having these conversations with your clients, and not just how's work, you know, like the typical, like, really get in there with them, get to the nitty gritty, and kind of like have these conversations about economy and, you know, the future for them.
Okay, I love that you're normalizing having the tough conversations, because I think we're of the same era in the industry. And I remember when I joined, it was like, well, here's the things you don't talk about. And there's this whole list of everything had to stay like very PC, and don't go there, and wait until see if the client offers. But times they are changing, and it's like, just be human. I think we forget to be human sometimes, like just be normal and ask important questions. And you're right, that being proactive is not just going to be peace of mind for you as the stylist, but for the guest as well, to be like, okay, Caitlin's got me. It's no worries. No matter what comes, Caitlin's got my back. Whomever's got my back, I'm going to be okay and get through it.
Yeah. And clients, same like us, we don't want to see, like, it takes so much effort to see a new client all the time. Clients don't want a new stylist all the time. That's so scary to them. So as long as they can stay with you, the longer the better, because they don't want to have to look for a new stylist either. That is not something they're interested in.
Okay. And to that point you just said, like, if you weren't, or if somebody wasn't having these poignant conversations, they might think like, well, I better go somewhere else because I don't want Caitlin to be mad at me because I'm taking out my extensions. Like, we all know those stories that people tell themselves, like the banana stories. They do. And if you don't open up the door to the conversation, they'll find somebody else and they'll cheat on you with another stylist because they feel like that's the appropriate solution.
Exactly. Yep. So letting them know that you will always take care of them no matter what.
So good. Caitlin, where can we find out more about you? Where do we connect?
I am Caitlin Does Color on Instagram, and then moxieandco.salon on Instagram as well.
You're brilliant. And if you follow me, I follow Caitlin. You'll find all things Caitlin by hanging with me as well. All right. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.